Welcome to the Advancing Entrepreneur. This show is all about surrounding yourself for success. Hear stories of building traction, gaining acceleration, and creating results from successful entrepreneurs who have surrounded themselves with other successful entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Annette Nightingale James.
Good morning, entrepreneurs. Annette Nightingale James back with you for another episode of The Advancing Entrepreneur, where we show you how to get traction, acceleration, and results. This morning, I am joined by my friend and fellow podcaster, Joe Fairless. Hi, Joe.
Hi there.
Hi. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to the audience, but I'm going to turn it back over to you so that you can tell us more. Joe is a host of the best real estate advice show ever. I should say he is the host of the best real estate advice show ever. And that's all I got, Joe. You're going to have to tell us a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah. Quite simply, I raise capital for real estate investments, and then I also help others learn how to raise capital for real estate investments. My focus on real estate is buying apartment communities. I control $7 million worth of real estate, started from zero in 2009, and in fact just went full-time about a year and a half ago and started my own company. Previous to that, I was the youngest vice president at a New York City ad agency where I live, from Texas, born in Michigan, kind of been all over the United States. And now, as you mentioned, I have a podcast called the Best Real Estate Investing Advice Ever Show, and I'm also, actively investing.
So awesome. Entrepreneurs, if you want to connect with Joe, go to iamadvancing.com, type Joe in the search bar, and his show note page is going to type up because we're going to link to his show and we're going to link to your website and all that kind of good stuff. You have a really cool website, by the way. I was checking it out. It has a lot of personality to it. And that's not often that you see that. So I just wanted to tell our audience, go check it out. It's really cool.
Well, thank you. Whenever I was creating it, I modeled it after 3 or 4 different websites that I really liked. One of them is Marie Forello, if you know Marie. And then another, it's actually a combination of her site and then also Frank Kern and his simplicity. And so when you look at it through those lens, you'll see the combo approach that I have at joefairless.com.
Yeah. I'm all about those clean sites. Everything should be easy. When they get really busy and complicated, they can hurt your eyes.
Yes, agreed.
I like it. So Joe, I love to have our guests tell our audience what inspires them to be an entrepreneur and what keeps you moving forward every day. What drives you?
Well, I would say what inspires me to keep me moving forward and what drives me is projecting myself out whenever I'm 80 years old. I watched a video on YouTube. I forget what the video is called, but I believe it was the founder of Amazon who mentioned that. He said, he was in his full-time job doing very well, but then he left because he was projecting himself as an 80-year-old and looking back on his life and seeing what would be the regrets that he'd have if he continued the path that he was on. And I was a very successful advertising professional for all intents and purposes. As I mentioned before, I was the youngest VP of an ad agency, but I just wasn't digging it anymore. And I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. I listen to him on a daily basis, and he talks about the 6 human needs. I won't get into all of them right now, but he says the last 2 lead to fulfillment, and those are growth and contribution. And I wasn't feeling like I was growing anymore in the advertising industry, and I didn't feel like what I was doing mattered. I didn't feel like I was contributing enough. So now that I'm doing my own thing, I certainly am growing and learning and progressing on an hourly basis, and I feel like I'm contributing more because I'm doing more of what's true to who I am.
One of the very first coaches and mentors I ever had, actually what introduced me to mastermind groups and surrounding yourself with other entrepreneurs, one of her mantras that she would repeat to us all the time is, there is no faster path to self-growth than entrepreneurship. because it
Right.
forces you to grow. You cannot do this unless you're growing as a person and you're willing to grow and you're
Absolutely.
willing to take that feedback. So absolutely. Well, that kind of leads us
Absolutely.
that leads us perfectly into the next question, Joe. What made you kind of take that leap from the ad agency into being an entrepreneur? So tell us about getting started in business. What was different than you thought it was going to be? Maybe share with the audience some of the hurdles that you had to overcome, because I think there's somebody listening today that is totally resonating with what you're saying about, look, I'm on all accounts I'm successful, but I can't imagine doing this for the rest of my life. So share our story a little bit about how that transition for
Yeah, it was a gradual and then an abrupt transition. From a gradual standpoint, I started identifying, and I think this from the people I've spoken to who are in my previous situation and who are in my current situation and who are much farther ahead from where I'm at. This seems to be a general consensus where there tends to be a gut feeling of, I don't know if I'm completely doing everything I want to be doing right now. And whenever I started getting that feeling, I first started doing other things like taking classes. For example, I did stand-up comedy. I actually performed at Gotham Comedy Club in New York City, and I saw what I liked out of it and what was absolutely, first off, terrifying, and what I didn't like so much. And so I started doing bits and pieces of different things. Taking Meetup.com is a great website to check out different groups that you can be exposed to, different activities that you might not. Groupon's another really good thing. Just randomly send you stuff. So I started doing these different activities, and I identified that real estate investing was something that I really enjoyed. And I was teaching it on the side as well because I was investing while I had my advertising job. So while I was getting a smattering of these different experiences, I then jumped to another advertising agency. I'd been at the previous one for about 7 years, and I jumped to the other one because I thought I'd work on more nonprofit stuff, going back to the contribution angle that I mentioned before. And while I did work on more nonprofit stuff, it just wasn't really fulfilling me like I wanted it to. And so then I decided that advertising wasn't for me. Wasn't my full-time job. Wasn't going to be my full-time job anymore. And at that point, it was pretty crazy. I remember sending the email. I still have the email that I sent to my family. It said basically, I came, I conquered, and now I don't care about it, period, anymore, period. So now I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice at the beginning of January. And my intention was to help other college students and young professionals do well in their career in marketing, whether it's advertising, PR, whatever. So I hired a web designer, and he designed the website for $3,000. Well, I never launched the website because I realized quickly after spending the money that college students and young professionals don't have money to pay for a consultant to help them get a job, because that's that's why it's kind of like a catch-22, chicken for the egg. So I quickly learned my first lesson as an entrepreneur, and that is test your business model and make sure you have customers who can actually afford to pay you. And at that point, I went from a career consultant focus to launching a real estate investing company, because I had at the time 4 homes in Dallas Fort Worth, and I knew real estate investing, and I had also been teaching it on the side in New York City where I live. So I saw an opportunity because I kept speaking to more and more people, and the more and more people I spoke to, the more and more people who said, well, if you ever have an opportunity to invest, let me know, I'd be interested. And that's how I launched the company, and then took off from there.
So very cool, very cool. Joe, I want you to share with our audience, how do you surround yourself with other entrepreneurs, right? So we were talking earlier about, you hit roadblocks. Obviously, you started a company, you had to pivot, because you learned something about it, things like that. So what do you do to put yourself into a community of entrepreneurs, to get inspiration and feedback, and to kind of keep you going through those times? Because we want our audience to really plug in. So we love to hear about how it's been helpful to our guests.
Right. Well, as Tony Robbins says, love your family, pick your peer group. And I'm very intentional about the people I surround myself with. One specific uh, story is that I wanted to get into commercial real estate investing. I'd owned some homes in Dallas, Fort Worth, but it's for all of you out there who know real estate. You know that there's a big difference between a single family house and a large apartment community. It's a huge mental leap, but it's also a huge intellectual leap for how you run the numbers, and it's a different language. So I read a whole lot. I read 2, 3 books a month. And one of the books I read whenever I was studying up on this was Commercial Real Estate Investing for Dummies. I like the book. I like the authors. It's co-authored. One of the authors, his name's Peter Harris, and I reached out to him after I read the book. I bought his program, and he actually was my mentor for a couple years, and he helped me get to the next level. So I intentionally find those who are successful and doing the things I want to do successfully, and then I reach out to them. I see how I can add value in their life. In that previous example, it was simply paying him. But in other examples, I was, for my real estate investing show, I just got off a call with Judy Robinette, and her book is on how to be a power connector. And she says the best way to add value in other people's lives, who perhaps are on a different financial level than you, is to connect them with other people within your network. And I always try to help other people through that approach. So I wholeheartedly believe in her approach, and I try to live it out in my life. And that's how I surround myself with other entrepreneurs, is just through that connectivity and constantly seeking out others who are successfully doing what I want to do.
So absolutely. Audience, it doesn't have to be a traditional way of doing it. In fact, I think that this is the new way of doing it, because I've heard this kind of quite a bit recently. I think it's showing up for me. But people who are advancing themselves, people who are super successful, they're always looking for the next person to connect with. There is nobody who's super successful is ever going to say, okay, my network is good enough. Just, I'm going to cut you off. So if you can be of value to them, they almost always are willing to help you. If they're above you, if they're, have moved to a higher level than you have, it's not that they don't want to help. It's just that they can't help everybody. So if you can find a way to be of value to them, most of the time they're happy to find a way to be of value to you back, or at a time in the future. So I love that you got innovative with it, and you're looking to first add value before, taking value away from them. I think that's a fantastic lesson. Okay, so tell us, was it, can you give us an example of maybe a light bulb moment? Did you have a connection with somebody, or were you, with one of the peers that you purposely have surrounded yourself with, that kind of was a light bulb moment or a pivoting point in your business now that you can tell us a little bit about, and how important it is to have those people around you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the light bulb moment was whenever I was teaching the class in New York City on how to invest in single family homes in markets that cash flow, because New York City doesn't cash flow. And one of my brother's friends, he heard I was teaching this class, but he lives in Texas. He's like, "Hey, can you just talk me through it? I'm looking to get into real estate investing." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course." Well, we get on a call. I talk him through just the class, just trying to help him out. And he's like, "Okay, that's interesting. So what are you focused on now?" I was like, "Well, I'm actually starting to get into investing." And he was the first person who said, "Well, if you ever want to partner up on something, let me know. I'm interested in that as well." and he was, the first investor who invested in a deal of mine, and it snowballed from there.
So talk about adding value to other people, right? You were just doing something to add value, and it turned out to be something good for your business as well. That's awesome. So very good. So Sean, besides the actual real estate investing itself, maybe it's the show or another project. What would you like to tell our audience about what you have going on now?
I would say I have two or three different areas of focus, but most relevant to your listeners would be the show that I'm doing. Best real estate investing advice ever. One of the highest rated investing podcasts in iTunes. And it's not only about obviously investing advice for investors, but I have people like Judy Robinette on the show, and others who bring another experience from a marketing standpoint or from a networking standpoint, and it helps you learn how to build your business as well.
Very cool. So entrepreneurs, there's nothing better than getting advice from outside your industry. So even if you're not directly into investing, it sounds to me like Joe has some great stuff going on his show. And he's going to send us the link that you can find at iamadvancing.com. Joe, in the search bar there, will pull up his page and we'll link directly to your show on iTunes. So Joe, I want to give our audience a chance to get to know you a little bit better. So we're going to do a bit of a speed round called Playing Favorites.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so who is your favorite sibling? No, I'm just kidding. Do you like your mom better or your dad better? So, Joe, I want you to share with our audience, what is your favorite charity?
I would say junior achievement. Yeah, really quick why. I love when any over obstacles in their life and has a story of conquering that. And Junior Achievement focuses on communities that are underserved and educates them, educates the kids, K through 12 on financial literature and stuff that, quite frankly, isn't really taught in school or taught, wow, taught in school. And I teach those kids.
I done did teach them.
Yeah. So, but whenever I volunteer, I use the proper grammar whenever I speak to them.
Good to know. That's good to know. So, can you share with us, what is your favorite quote?
I would say the secret to living is giving. And Tony Robbins said that in the TED Talk, and I'm sure he got it from someone else, but I wholeheartedly believe that.
Absolutely. Joe, what is your favorite discovery? Do you have an app or a resource that you use in your business?
I would say the app that I like using, and this is recently, it's called Appointlet, and that helps schedule my calendar. Another app that I absolutely love is Quotaful, and it's full of inspirational quotes. It's like an Instagram for quotes.
Okay, very good, Joe. What is your favorite song? Do you have something that you listen to get yourself pumped up?
Well, I would say my favorite song versus what I listen to get me pumped up is different. So I will answer, I guess, the pumped up one, since that was the second question that you asked. What gets me pumped up is Enter Sandman by Metallica. That's actually also my go-to karaoke song. I do a mean air guitar on that song.
I love it. Okay, now we're all dying to know, what's your favorite song?
My favorite song is Wounded by Third Eye Blind. I had a couple, but I'll go with Wounded by Third Eye Blind, because that goes back to overcoming whatever life may present. Not quite sure what the song's about. I think you can interpret based on the lyrics, but the Third Eye Blind's never actually come out and said exactly, but the intention behind it, I think, is really powerful, in that, regardless of what you come across in life, you've got to stand up and back the bully to back of the bus, as they say.
Very good. Tell us, Joe, share with our audience, what is your favorite business book?
Favorite business book is actually the 80-20 rule for marketing. I actually just read that, and I think it simplifies things a lot. And if I can mention one more, it's The Go-Giver. The Go-Giver, the philosophies behind The Go-Giver is something that I try to live out, and it's a great just template for how to structure a business.
Very good. Joe, I want you to share with us, if you, as yourself today, could give a piece of advice to that version of yourself that was just getting started, what piece of advice would you like to tell him?
I would say back to the 80-20 rule of the book, I'd say identify the top 20% of things and focus on those things the most. And then I would try and sneak myself a cheat sheet of those 20% things.
So there you go. Just put it in the wallet right underneath.
Yeah, invisible ink or whatever. We'll make it happen.
Very good. Joe, I want you to tell our audience where they can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
The best is through the show, Best Real Estate Investing Advice Ever show. And then you can check out the show, obviously, through iTunes or on my website, joefairless.com/show.
Cool. Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. We look forward to connecting with you online, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sweet. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Advancing Entrepreneur. If you enjoyed it, leave us a rating and review. Not only will it make our day, you'll also be helping others find this show and advance their own careers. Once you're done, be sure to head on over to iamadvancing.com and join our community to learn what it takes to be an advancing entrepreneur and surround yourself for success. Thanks again, and get ready to advance.